We just people from the north side. Once and Timmy's at the shore fine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.
Ladies and gentlemen, your host, your boy, George McKine back, and I'm sitting down with a legend. A Canadian legend, a wrestling legend, Mr. Stu Grayson. How are you, sir?
Not bad at all. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for giving me the time. Dude, I am a big fan. I know you don't want to talk about it, leave it off the table, but I'm a huge fan. I definitely loved all the work that you did in AEW. And the one thing I want to ask, which is a very easy question, I think, what would you say was your favorite match in your career in AEW in the run that you were doing?
Favorite match? I would probably be the 5-on-5 elimination match that we did. Honestly, just because of the entrance. The entrance alone made us so happy that I didn't even give a crap about the match afterward. I couldn't care less about the match. Once the entrance was done, I was like, I could just go home right now.
This is it. Okay, guys, we're going to leave.
Yeah, I was like, that's it. Thank you. I'll be here all night, but not in the ring now.
Yeah. I don't know where you got to go, but you got to get the hell out of here. I love it. So in terms of Stu Grayson and the evolution of your character, evolution of your persona, evolution of you inside the square circle, what would you say was the most interesting turn for you in your career thus far to getting to the place you are in the squared circle?
Oh, that's a hard one.
I try to ask the tough questions.
I think the main evolution for me is when Evil Uno and myself decided to step away from the in-ring funny stuff, like when we were SSB. The funny SSB, I guess, for Shikara, CZW, Evolve,
yes.
And then we turned into the more darker character. One of the main reasons was at that point in my career, I went from being one of the skinny guy to a much bigger person. There was a time when we were stuck in Canada due to visa issues where the world hadn't gotten to see me for like 4 or 5 years, like traveling as much. So by the time between my last match in the US and then the next one, I had gained like 30 pounds of muscle. So to me, it felt like, I look different. I think we need to have a different approach to wrestling, and my wrestling style needed to change because I could no longer be just a small guy who does flippy stuff, and I needed to do more. And one of the things I do best is it's my strength. I'm surprisingly strong for my size, and I've been throwing people around my whole life, but I was always told as a small guy, hey man, you can't do that. And now I'm at that point where I just don't give a damn. And if you're really big and you don't want to be thrown, you best not be in the ring with me because I'll fucking throw you. I don't care. So,
what is it about Quebec and the fact that it literally breeds pro wrestlers? Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, yourself, Evil Uno. The list goes on and on. Jacques Rougeau. Oh my God, it's Dino Bravo. Yep. Like, there's just such a rich history of French-Canadian wrestlers, powerhouses, ring generals. Every kind of pro wrestler has come out of Quebec. What is it?
In a way, it's kind of we're all somewhat related, not in blood. I mean,
yeah, you're not the bloodline.
No, we're not like that. For the longest time, people thought I was El Generico's little brother,
well,
and Uno was Kevin Owens' little brother, but Uno and I are brothers. I was like, there's a big family issue here. But but the fact that Kevin and El Generico took Uno and myself under their wings, and then we've been in the ring also so much with Mike Bailey Speedball, and we've wrestled each other so much, I think that we kept bettering each other, and we kept saying, hey, I'm traveling to this country, this place. They have an extra spot, hop in the car, get your, you know what I mean? So we kept helping each other so much because we felt like Kevin, El Generico, myself, and Uno, we were the 4 dudes who lived not too far from each other, and we were doing all those shows together. So we ended up just starting to travel everywhere together. Wow. And that's how we really got to be everywhere, because if you wanted to bring the best possible Canadian car, you were bringing Steve Rico in SSB. Then you were guaranteed multiple crazy matches on your card, and that's kind of became our reputation in a way, which was a really solid reputation to have, because people were like, hey guys, I need like 1 or 2 insane matches, so I need you on. And I was like, oh, that's right. I was like, all right then.
That whole car falls right.
I was like, no, just pick anyone in any situation, and we're gonna go nuts, you know? So it was a great reputation to have. It was nice that people saw it that way, where if you had us on the show, it was going to be a great show. I was pretty happy with it. So.
Absolutely. Listen, I look at some of the matches that you guys had. I don't know how you walked out of the arenas. I have no idea how you walked out confident, but then you walked. I don't know how you all walked out, got in the car, drove home. I don't get it. You have put your body through so much stuff, all for the love of pro wrestling. It shows the passion that you have inside that squared circle, makes us outside the squared circle all fall in love with it again. Passion is something that I feel you never lose, but I feel that it can be stumbled. Have there ever been times in your career where you wavered on your passion, where you're like, I'm not happy right now?
For sure. Pro wrestling, anyone who knows me, they know it. It's my love and hate relationship with wrestling is like the one most people have with Nicolas Cage, where you can really love him at time and absolutely hate Nicolas Cage at time. You know what I mean?
Face off Nicolas
It's like,
Cage,
oh my God.
or drive angry.
And then you're like, God dang it, Nicholas, why are you doing this to me? I love you.
Put the bunny back in the box.
Yeah, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, you know. But wrestling is like that. It's the highs in wrestling are high, but the lows are incredibly low. And it's crazy because it's not even just in terms of money. With money being a huge issue, we do have to make a living. But the injuries and the fact that being a pro wrestler full-time is not a sports or job, it's a lifestyle. It's all of it. The amount of celebration and anniversary I missed because I was somewhere in the world and no one knew about it. It was like, hey, Stu, you're coming to Christmas. I'm like, I'm in Germany right now, or you know what I mean? So the price of wrestling to really make it in pro wrestling is a lot. When it pays off, then you realize it was all for the right reason and you know it was worth it. But when it doesn't and you stay home for a year with a torn quad, you're like, I could be a doctor. What am I doing here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so
for sure. I get what you're saying. And when it comes to situations like this, like today, the Free Palestine show, talking about something the rest of the community does better than any other sports community, I believe, which is caring and charity work and everything. Wrestling does that leaps and bounds. The IWC, the International Wrestling Community, is phenomenal for giving back always to any charity, to any belief system. But what's special about today, this show? Why did you want to get involved in this?
As soon as I was contacted to be part of the show and in the cause and what it was, and I saw the people on it, I thought, oh man, I got to be part of it. It's just a group of great people doing the right thing for the right reasons, and the fans are invested, they're loving it, they want to support us. We got a good crowd tonight. They raised a good chunk of money for the right reason. To me, it just felt like as soon as I was contacted, hey man, we need a crazy match. I want you in. Do you want to do this? It was a no-brainer. I was like, absolutely. This is a great reason for me to wrestle if there's any. So let's go. So driving here was a pleasure.
Absolutely. So listen, we're Canadian. There's one thing Canadians love, which is coffee, and of course, poutine.
Of course.
But a lot of people don't say poutine the right way. When you hear somebody say, hey man, do you want to go grab some poutine? Do you sit there and go, no?
It's poutine now has become the English word that I hate, and I go, you know what? I'll let it slide because now I'm used with the people saying déjà vu or touché, and I'm like, that's not how it's being. So now I have to just let it slide because I would. Oh yeah, that's just too much. It's too much for me now. So, but yeah, sometimes when they say I'll get poutine, it takes a second to go. Oh, poutine. Yeah, right.
Poutine.
Yeah. You're wrong about this, but yeah, let's go get some.
Am I saying it? Good?
It's not too
Poutine.
bad. It's poutine. Yeah, you're doing it pretty
I'm doing
well.
Pretty
Pretty
good.
good.
You know what? 9 years of forced French here in Ontario. I remember how to say poutine. Bonjour, comment ça va? Ça va bien?
That's not bad at all.
S'il vous plaît?
S'il vous plaît, we go.
And then au revoir.
Au revoir.
That's it.
That's not bad at all. You can kind of have a conversation with someone really quickly.
Yeah. Or toilette.
Toilet. Well, that's an important one.
Especially, I've been to Quebec a few times, and I need to know where I can find the nearest toilet.
After a poutine, you do need to know where the toilet is.
I wanna thank you for the time. Just 2 more questions. I'm gonna let you go prepare for your match. When it comes to Stu Grayson and interest from the higher ups, because now you have a brand. Have you possibly been approached by WWE, TNA, anything like that? Is there any interest?
So there's a lot going on in the world of wrestling right now, more than ever. I mean, ever since,
So much.
you know what I mean? It shifts so quickly. I am in contact with a lot of people sometimes, and then sometimes it just feels like I'm talking to no one. It's how wrestling works. So it's
Talk to everyone and no one all at the same time.
and it's sometimes I'm thinking within the same minute I can think, oh, there's something coming for me, or not. So it's, you know what I mean? It's so the world of wrestling is so erratic. which is kind of one of the cool thing about it. So it's hard to say what's coming up for me up until it happens, because until it's done and I'm right in the middle of it, I don't really believe it's true.
You're
so,
like me. It's got to be tangible.
I got to be right in it. And once I'm right in it, I'm like, this still could just not happen at any moment,
Coming here today, I'm like, am I going to get a chance to sit down with Stu Grayson and look?
You never know. Boom, here we go.
We're 10 minutes in.
Or is it even happening?
It is happening.
Am I even here?
No, the Matrix. Fourth wall.
Who knows?
Broken. My final question, Brody Lee. What an amazing soul.
Absolutely.
An amazing human being. I had a chance to meet him briefly when he was just coming up through the ranks, and left an impression with me for that to this day of what an amazing human being is. When you look at the body of Brody Lee and the work that he left in the independents and on the big screens, what would you say? Would you say he'd be happy with his body of work, or he'd be pleased with everything he left? Or, I mean, there's always unfinished business, but do you feel like he got everything he could out of the Dark Order at the time that he was still here?
When you talk about his career, like, he had a pretty solid career, even though he did not accomplish as much as he should have, given his personality, his skills, and everything. But for me, everything Brody related, as much as, like, my relationship with him was based off pro wrestling for the longest time. I met him in Shakara when I was 18, and then joined in AEW with Dark Order and everything. But everything that really mattered for Brody was his family. And knowing that now his kids are, they're great freaking kids. I love these kids. That Amanda's doing well, that the whole family is just doing good. That's really all that matters. When it comes down to wrestling, I feel like we only got to scratch the surface of what he could have done, what Dark Order could have done with him. It feels like we just couldn't get any of the good stuff. I think everything good was coming up, and then it was taken away from us. So he's got a pretty solid career, but you've barely got to see a fraction of who Brody Lee really was as a man and as a wrestler. The one thing that is for sure that I hope that's how it happens if I pass away suddenly, is that people like Brody, absolutely everyone universally speaks highly of him. And I have never met another human being where even the people who were not his friend, people who didn't, like, even like competitors, people who did not like him, were like, he was one of the genuinest, best person I have ever met. We were bitter enemy, but I loved being his enemy. You know what I mean? Like, he was that dude where I have never heard anyone say anything bad about him, and that's because there was nothing bad to say about him. He was the man.
I love that. And I guess a bonus question, when you talk about Brody Lee and everyone, like you said, it's so fondly, what's one memory, I guess, or even one funny moment that sticks out with you when it comes to Brody Lee? Something that is just for you, but maybe if you could share it with my audience.
It's a bit for everyone. So I've had Brody has been, he's been a good influence for me in terms of what I was doing with my career with AEW. He's mentioned a few things to me, how to deal with contract or whatnot. But one of the fondest memories, the real one I have with him, and you've all seen it in a way because it was part of the BTE when he won the TNT Championship. But once we finally finished filming that BTE where we ordered chilies and we have ribs, Brody bought roughly $350 to $400 worth of food, and we were like, so at the end of BT, we're like, all right, we're chipping the money, and he goes, "Do you know how rich I am?" He's like, "You're not paying for shit, boys." And we're like, okay, and then he just sat back, and he's shirtless, and we're all sweaty, and he's got ribs onto his stomach, and he goes, "Wrestling is fucking great, man. I love this. We're having a great time, boys." And we were just like stuffing our face like, "This is great. I love this." Like, so it's one of those moments when in wrestling where even if wrestling sometimes is like you hate it or whatever, that specific moment in time for all of us, we were like, man, I'm just happy that all the struggle led to this 5-10 seconds of, you know what, this wrestling is fucking great. And it's one of the funnest memory because Brody was just genuinely so happy. Dark Order was so happy. It was a good time. It was great.
I love that, and I think that's a great way to leave off this conversation. This, for me, is bucket list moment checked off. You are one of my all-time favorites, and to have a 50-minute conversation with you is incredible. If I can ask one more favor, would you look at that screen, give that Stu Grayson energy, and let everyone know that you just had a really fun conversation with Straight Talk Wrestling, and maybe they might like to subscribe.
Of course. So this is Stu Grayson, and this is Straight Talk Wrestling.
That's it for this one, guys. Peace, love, and wrestling. See you next week. Peace.
We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shorefine. Winter ready on the four ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.